Hey everybody, welcome to our new, we think, Conversations in Cases.
Yep. Well, we wanted to start. We thought it'd
Video,
be
what is
fun to. Well, part of it
Conversation
at
in
conversations.
Cases.
I kind of like conversations in cases.
Conversation in Cases with Dr. Amy and Eric?
Sure.
We don't even know. Anyway, you can tell us what it
Well,
should be.
here's the thing. We've been having a lot of on the side conversations, and we're always like, oh, we should talk about that. Like our one today
And
is
we do
on
case studies
discipline.
with our
And we have a
patients.
lot of really great case studies that we also want to share because in
Privately.
this past year and a half, we have seen some amazing impact. And I think it's so awesome that we can, these are things that you can do at home. By a lot of it is implementing these lifestyle and these pillar changes. Now, sometimes it's some testing that we'll do, but a lot of it has to do with just educating ourselves on how we can optimize this body. So we're going to have, a little topic each week, our conversation, and then share one patient case.
It is.
But you're right, confidential.
Yes.
Not sharing specifics
The conversation
on names
this
and all
week,
that.
we were kind of talking about, well, we have the Opt to Change a 21-day program. And the impact to the patients that are in that right now, or just members, are that they're seeing amazing results, which we would all imagine is the case. When you dive in and create the changes that are in this program, and those are add, colors of the rainbow, eliminate sugars, ultra processed foods. And we give you bite-sized pieces that allow you to do it on a daily basis, right? Across
And weaving
our
in
four
all the
pillars.
pillars, yeah.
And it's some of the people are like, I love it. It's just a daily, I just jump in there, figure out what I got to do today, do it.
You tell me, I'll do
and
it.
you tell me I do it, and they're feeling amazing. And we know that's true. I mean, this works every time, just so you know. It is something that we find that we do at least quarterly or as needed, right?
Yeah, when we
And
need
so
a reset
the holidays,
after the holidays.
we just did it here recently after the holidays. But the conversation that came up was that discipline in general ends up being probably one of the characteristics that if you have discipline, the stuff that we have to share with you, if you implement it, works almost every time. Like
Well, and
95,
it does.
99% of the time.
And I think the conversation came up because I was talking about, we were talking about the Opt to Change and how it does create discipline in your life. And after you've done something for 21 days straight, you're more likely to, it literally changes our brain synapses and connections, right? And our chemicals in our body. And so things become more habitual. And so that's part of it. But we also were talking about that discipline, it is creating discipline because every day you kind of have these check boxes. And like our brain, you mentioned this last night, something about, our brain, we like to fit in and we like to check
The cerebellum
boxes
is,
and
safety.
right?
If we fit in, that's a safe thing.
And so
Survival
when you
instinct.
get in this little, when you get in your app and then, you're following this program and you're checking it off. I think sometimes that alone, just given us structure, our brain likes structure, we like all of that. I think it's a little bit of it too is maybe that dopamine boost that you get. Obviously, when you're breathing and you're lowering your stress and you're
reward
eating
center.
well and you're moving and you're sleeping, your dopamine boosts anyway. But I do think there's something about the reward. Like you did it, every day you check off your boxes and all that. Part of it came because I was talking about my discipline with the move pillar since I committed to doing this mini marathon with our daughter.
I know, with your daughter. I am
has
not doing
totally-
it. My body does not allow me anymore.
But I always put that on the back burner. We each have our thing, right? Some people the eat gets put on the back burner. Some people the sleep, whatever. Some people it's the breathe pillar. But I think we all have our imbalance in our four pillars, and I think we naturally are better at some things than others. But isn't it funny how committing to something like that and having a goal is making me so much more disciplined.
I think part of the challenge too in our culture is that people want it immediately. And I think those members that have been, these patients that have been with us for a year and a half, have heard, and we built their fund of knowledge for the 4 pillars and what does optimal living look like. Doesn't mean that they have implemented it, right? And so I think the implementation, or to create the experience, so one's knowledge, the other is the experience. You go through a 21-day program, you're full in on what the experience is if you're disciplined. Like if you truly do everything we tell you, you're a completely different person. The synapses connections in the brain. I love what you were saying. Those cells in the cornea change every day.
Yeah, our
like
gut
brand
every
new, the
week.
gut every week.
At 5
And
days.
so we're changing. And when you start to apply these changes that we're recommending in diet and stress and movement and sleep, that those cells, when they divide, are so healthy. When they divide, you have 2 healthy cells, right? I mean, it's just amazing how quick this can impact your body from these little bitty lifestyle changes that we're asking you to do. It's a massive impact. The efficacy's off the chart.
Do you think our society is more or less disciplined than it was?
I
30 years ago.
I think you take our members, the people that I coach on a regular basis, and the hardest hurdle ends up being how busy everyone is. And so that busyness is tied to stress. Then some days it maybe feels like we're just trying to get by.
We're reactive.
And then we want our little pleasures, so we still do things that aren't best for us. Not a lot, but enough to create an impact that's not beneficial to the body, to our mind, to our longevity. And so we do need to start to pull back from either manage. I don't think our stress really goes away, but I think we have to manage the stresses that are in our life. And in some cases, and this has happened with some of our members, you got to remove yourself from the stress. If it's too great and you truly can't manage it, then you got to ask yourself the question, is this healthy for me and my longevity? And then how important is your longevity? But anyway, so we're doing that, on a daily basis, as we work, and weekly basis as we work with our patients to find that discipline, because that's the key.
And what is keeping you from that discipline? Like you said, I think that is, we always say the breathe pillar, we always start with the breathe pillar because I think stress in our fast-paced society is like this big hurdle to get over. Or it's kind of this impedance that it's like you can't
get rid of it.
Well, you're right, but
unless
then
you're changing
you
jobs, which is hard for many people. Say, yeah, I'm just going to quit what I'm doing.
But it's managing the stress and even saying, okay, 2 minutes a day of I'm going to just sit here and breathe and be in this moment, get myself out of this sympathetic, stressed out state, get into the more parasympathetic mode. Then I'm less reactive to things that are coming at me, and I can be more disciplined.
And the move pillar. You and I both know when we were in our stress, this is less stress, I think, even though you're working with me. But, back in the day when we had more stress, we used our exercise as a way to kind of reset and get some of those happy hormones in a good way. So that was our happiness check off versus, I'm going to have, a chai latte with a bunch of sugar in it, as my little happiness treat for the day because I made it through a stressful day, right? And so we got to find ways of taking those little happy pleasures that we think we need and let them be healthier for us.
Well, again, back to the program, I think as we were making this, and this has been something we've been doing for years, right? And
it works.
And I think coaching our patients, then we were like, okay, let's put this into something that we can weave in every day. And so we have all these little pearls. I'm thinking like even sleep, right? We have all these pearls, and we have the first part's like, why is sleep important? And then it's like, okay, how can we then start getting more sleep, right? And then,
And then
even down
sleep.
to like apps or different things that you can use. And I think all these pillars, if we could spend the time and think about that even with stress, right? Like, okay, we know why it's important to get a hold of the stress. We know the health effects. And then now it's like, okay, how? And then little bite-sized pieces and pearls that people now hopefully can sustain and weave into their life, down to the eat too. I think we did a lot with big heavy on the eat, getting a grasp
As well
on
we should,
that, because
right?
you know
The
that
change
is
is
probably the
80%.
hardest
You
thing.
told me it's 80% intake, 20% exercise
For weight
by way
maintenance.
of weight management.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you still have to
And,
exercise every day, ideally.
well,
With maybe a rest day once or twice a
yeah,
week.
yeah. Yeah, and then I think with the whole eat thing too, um, talking about discipline with eating, our society makes it so easy to grab fast food, or fast, unhealthy, ultra processed food on the go, right? It's cheap and it's everywhere.
Massive rewards to the brain for the sugar, for the ultra processed foods, for some
And
of
it
the
is kind of, I think you're
tickling
right, the reward.
chemicals are splendor. Some of the other sugars, what did you say? It's like 800 times sweeter than sugar.
The signal in our brain.
It's like,
yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
don't ever forget
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible.
Well, a lot of our, whatever, it's not just all patients that are doing our 21 day, but attendees or participants in our 21 day have also commented that how much more time it's taking at the grocery, right?
Oh,
and not in a negative way, but they're just shocked because we are having people read labels and look for added
It
sugars and
does
look for
happen.
chemicals.
I mean, when we go to the store and I'm like looking at labels, because I look at almost every label now, is that, there's people trying to just get down the row, right? It's like a two-way street, and they've crammed so much stuff in. They need more room. Like a little bike lane on the side for people that want to read labels.
Passing zone. Yeah, no.
Reading labels only,
Reading
right
labels,
here,
That's so funny.
for the safety of the people in the grocery store.
But again, so what is it that some people feel really drawn to that discipline of, like, I'm going to read every label and I really want to spend time food prepping, and others, that is a bigger challenge for them to stay disciplined with that eat pillar. What do you think, where does that come from? Is it just we're born that
Well,
way?
I think we're busier too, right? I mean, think about, and we've done a really good job of getting super efficient with food prep, and we can crank out an amazing dinner like in 15
Fast.
Like, and it's not like we're like in here running around and stumbling over each other. We just have done it so many times. And on the days that we're like, okay, we got to get out the door, we do our smoothie.
Right.
I mean, I take a 16-ounce cup. We got our frozen berries, water to halfway up with frozen berry, 3/4 with water. I throw in 2 scoops of the, Mediclear stuff, and flaxseed. I dump that in. Don't even measure stuff. I just, and then greens, blend it up. It's amazing. That covers me to lunch. I don't feel like I'm hungry. And so, it's just getting creative, and again, us helping you with this fund of knowledge on how to do it, and then finding opportunities to implement what you know, so that down the road you can say, when I do this, I feel this way. When I do that, I feel that way. Right? I vote this way. And occasionally we're going to do it that way versus this way. And we have to be okay with that, but we also need to recognize the impact of doing it in a more negative way to the body. And there's times at which we have to be disciplined and say, this isn't serving me well, right?
I think also a lot of times we're so busy taking care of everyone else, or putting ourselves last, and that is something through this 21 day too, is that we talk about.
You ladies do that maybe more than us men.
Yeah, but I think whatever, work and school and kids and family and parents and this and then responsibilities, so it's like, oh, I don't have time, or I can, or I have to, whatever.
Right.
So I think it's realizing, like, this is our one vehicle we're going to have in our life, and we also need to realize that we have to invest in this, and we have to love ourselves enough to feel that we deserve this. We have to have it to just live and survive. It's crucial to our ultimate health, whether that's emotional, mental, physical health, that we truly step back. And I think there are these aha moments where it hits people, right? whether you start getting older or you get sick or something happens. I think a lot of time that really is that aha moment. But I really think we all need to just right now, where we are, step back.
If you could
and
just look at us as the most complex living thing on this planet and say, why was I given this life? Number one. And then two, shouldn't I take good care of it? It's like someone gives you a Lamborghini. Would you just never change the oil? Would you never clean it?
Right.
We would never do that. But
junky
yet we
fuel
are,
in
you
it.
know, a million times more complex than a Lamborghini, and it's been given to us. It was free. We should, even at that, from that perspective, recognize the importance and really what we're charged to do as trying to support this most complex living thing that's been given to us, the physical human body.
I know.
So that was a long conversation. You have a case that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And you've been talking more and more about the gut. You're like, oh my God, there is just so many gut things going on. Is that the one you're talking about
Well,
today?
it's kind of related to that. I've seen so much autoimmunity is what I was going to talk about.
Well,
And
what does that
indirectly,
even
it
mean?
talks about the gut. So
Autoimmunity.
autoimmune means auto is it's self. So your immune system is turning on yourself. So autoimmune diseases
Because
are
normally
anything.
it would turn on a virus.
Correct.
An
Our immune
antigen,
system,
right? So
right.
viruses, bacteria,
Yeah.
fungus, and chemicals.
That's what our
Those
immune
are the main
system is
ones.
meant to manage,
But
right?
autoimmune is it's
For some reason it gets confused
attacking
and
itself.
attacks itself. So rheumatoid arthritis, it'll attack joints, or lupus, it can attack connective tissue or organs. There's thyroid, there's Hashimoto's thyroiditis where it will attack the thyroid. So I've been seeing so many autoimmune cases, and so
And you
we'll
have personal
probably be
experience with
talking.
this.
I do. I had an autoimmune disease called antiphospholipid antibody syndrome when I was pregnant.
Well,
Developed
not
that.
with the first child, but on the
It
subsequent
developed after
children.
after my first pregnancy. I had 2 pregnancy losses. One was like halfway through. It was awful, and literally this was 25 years ago, and so we were just starting to be on the cusp of learning about some of these autoimmune
You made your
things.
little Jake.
And
Figured it
then, so for some reason, my body was forming antibodies that were attacking the placenta and the blood vessels and forming clots that the flow couldn't get to the baby.
And that's just one example.
And that's
right?
one
There's
example.
a ton of examples. Yeah.
And so maybe I'll talk about that as our case.
Okay.
We've
Your
got,
case?
and as the future goes, there's a lot of great cases, and a lot of them will be autoimmune that we'll talk about. But so my case, I had to be on blood thinners and aspirin to sustain the pregnancy, which was awesome, and so I did. And then
So
I
there
did that
wasn't
for
any
my
clotting
second
of the
and
blood
third.
going to the baby.
And I was able to carry them to term and have them. So we have Jacob and Lucy now from that. And so fast forward, I didn't realize like what was perpetuating this autoimmunity stuff, right? And even my thyroid was off. My ANA, which is another anti-nuclear antibody, was high. And so they weren't really sure at the time. So they were like, as long as, when you're pregnant, you need to treat it. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do. Well, then I started discovering and reading Dr. Hyman's book. And this was probably 2006. And this light bulb went off, and he was talking a lot about food and your immune system and autoimmunity. And so I did his elimination diet, and I think I did like 10 days, and I felt like a new person. I had asthma before that. I had allergies. I had gut issues. I feel like I was always more swollen. I did have a more swollen face.
A healthy Italian face.
I thought I was, doing all the right things. I was eating low-fat food, and but I was eating gluten and dairy and all the things that I didn't know at the time. Exercised all the time, but I was extremely stressed and I didn't sleep.
Stress, yeah.
Because I was obviously, finished residency and was working a lot and raising a family. But the interesting thing, so just through those food, and then later I went ahead and did some gut testing, and we did our nutritional testing and that. And through all of that, my antibodies now are all negative. And like my ANA, my thyroid was
So this
abnormal.
is that epigenetic, these switches that
Yeah,
turned
yeah.
off and on. So your DNA, obviously aspects of it that you're not going to change your color of your eyes.
Right.
But there's certain things that have
Gene expression
gene
can
expression.
change. So I was
you
obviously
changed that
prone
with
to
the
that.
food that you were putting in your body.
And my thyroid too. My thyroid, my TSH was high, and so I just there's an interesting thing called molecular mimicry, and so I have Hashimoto's, and so I have antibodies that, again, for some reason, most of the time it's with a virus. Interestingly, after I had COVID,
I know.
mine got triggered again. But again, I
What
just
a gift,
really
our
honed in
COVID.
and got more strict with my 4 pillars and my gut health. And anyway, so back to these antibodies, there's something called molecular mimicry. And so one common example is a lot of times, like if people, the wheat molecule, there's a part of it that looks a lot like thyroid molecule. So wheat is not necessarily the cause of the thyroid. A lot of times they think people get Hashimoto's because maybe a virus or something triggers them to confuses their immune system, right? So you get this virus and your immune system gets all turned on and your antibodies are all on, and it gets kind of confused and it starts making antibodies to a body part, and so in this case, thyroid. Well, that molecular mimicry with the wheat and the thyroid, the body, every time you eat wheat, the body will make more antibodies. And then so it just keeps making more and more antibodies to attack the thyroid because it kind of looks at the wheat as that. Now, and I won't say that's in every single case, but many times, and in mine, it was a huge impact. And so getting rid of wheat, I mean, I'm not celiac, I've done tests and all of this, but getting rid of the wheat was probably the biggest impact in dairy on my health. And I had really did it through not expensive testing. Did the food elimination at the time. I didn't know back in 2006 and 7 about some of the other tests, which honestly, I mean, they're helpful. They're just not always 100%, like if you do allergy or food tests. So I really think those elimination diets are huge. We've done that a lot with our patients.
It amazes me the age range that it impacts. Like you were just chatting with someone yesterday about this.
A 20-year-old.
Yes, very young, and how this food is impacting
And she doesn't
how
want
the
to.
body interprets things, and even maybe in some cases attacking it.
Well, and I think our immune system, again, like you said, it needs to be ready and on so that, like, if we do get a virus or an infection or we get, something comes in foreign, our body, we have a strong immune system that can manage it. I also think, and this is, there's a lot of unknowns, but there's a lot of research going on about just the change in our food today, right? And chemicals and things that are put in our food, it is a foreign object or foreign substance to our body. And so our immune system gets more stressed than usual. Also,
It's got to be super confused. Like, what in the
What is that
world?
you're putting in me?
I mean, unless you're truly eating plant-rich whole foods with no chemicals on them, organic, non.
GMO.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine what our body's really doing? The conversations inside is like, I don't know what that is. I'm tired.
And so immune system
oh
beyond.
my gosh.
But I'm telling you, when
Just,
I
yeah,
made
turn on
these
everything.
changes, I was sick all the time. I was, I mean,
And it was
I really
exhausting
was
to me.
on,
No.
no, but I was on antibiotics all the time, which then would just disrupt my gut more, and that was stressing out my immune system because over 70% of your immune system resides in your gut.
You are much more pleasant to be
So,
around today.
oh, stop. But I am. I feel better. My energy
No,
is
you are
better. My
definitely
health
healthier.
is better. I haven't been on an antibiotic in so long, but so my case
But we want this
is
for everyone,
one,
right?
but
This is
I
your
could,
case.
I'm telling you, there are so many patients out there that we've impacted in this manner by focusing on gut and food and these pillars, because stress
Maybe it was good that you
also
experienced
affects
it,
it.
because
And
you know
I
it's
do
real.
think that was part of
But that's what we want
why
for the
I
patients.
reached
We want them
out.
to experience the differences when they change how they behave in life.
You're right.
Across these 4 swim lanes. How do you manage stress? Are you eating super smart? Right? Move a little bit every day and get a good night's sleep. It's
And
amazing.
you know what? They're all important.
I know you can't.
It's like a
you can't
table
cheat on
with
one.
4 legs.
I've
If
gotten
you
more.
cheat, you're going to be wobbly and out of
I used
balance.
to sleep when I just poo-pooed, and I felt so much better. Just the brain manages stress better. It operates better. Memory's better. Everything seems to be better when I get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Good
And I
quality
can
sleep.
tell, yeah, stress is my big thing too. That is a big trigger for me. So I know we're all different, but yeah, so it's exciting. We're
Conversations
excited
and
to keep
cases. So that was a
sharing.
good case. Thank you for sharing that. Very personal.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any other, I guess, things that you want us to discuss, throw them over. Be more than happy to.
Conversations you want us to
conversations that you
have.
want us to have. Otherwise, we're just going to keep throwing the ones that we have all the time. We are wishing you guys a wonderful day. Take care.